Sorcerers, thank you for joining me today for this update for our Kickstarter campaign and some news from the studio as well. Now, I recorded this update yesterday with Eric, but we've had to re-record it because we've had a couple of extra pieces of information about Kickstarter that we wanted to share with you all. So I'm going to keep this as brief as possible, which is quite unusual for me. So let's get started and talk a little bit more about what's been going on with our Kickstarter. Now, we are currently fulfilling Kickstarter in certain territories. In Canada, the fulfillment is actually nearing completion. The majority of the pledges have been sent out, and we've had confirmation. I think that most backers have actually received theirs. If you haven't, don't worry, it's on its way to you. Now, as we move to America now, the US, we've been advised on two dates. First of all, at the end of next week, US backers will have to complete an address verification process. And apologies if we have to keep doing this. A lot of people move. And so what happens is that Quartermaster Logistics will send out an email from the qmlogistics.com domain and ask you to verify your address. Now, if there's changes, please go ahead and submit those changes. And if you have a PO box, we actually are able to deliver to some PO boxes as well, which have only been advised of recently. So check your address, verify it, and then submit that. It's very helpful to us, even if you have no changes, to verify it, because that way we can see response rate. Following that, on the 30th of June, we begin our fulfillment. Now, the fulfillment process takes between 1 and 2 weeks, we've been advised so far. And the delivery can take anywhere from between, I think, 3 to 5 days, depending on where people are in North America. So moving into early July, mid-July, we expect for our US backers to have received their pledges. Again, please let us know if you have any issues. We're always responsive. Then we move into Europe and the UK. This is being fulfilled by ShipQuest directly, and they've advised us that on the 26th of June, they will commence that fulfillment process. Now, in this territory, there is no chance to verify your address. They're actually locked, and they're locked our end as well. So if there are issues, you can email us, let us know. However, we're not able to move things around. Also, we can't move things between different territories. We're not able to do that because the stock's actually co-located with the logistics companies right now. Okay, moving forward. Rest of world, that's handled with the UK and Europe. So that will begin on the 26th. Probably take a little longer. It's got a lot further distance to go to these regional hubs. Now, one thing we've learned today, and I can tell you we're less than happy about this, is that our Australia and New Zealand fulfillment will begin on the 3rd of July. As I said, we're furious because we were led to believe this will start mid-June, and we have a lot of backers in Australia and New Zealand who are very keen to receive their pledges. So our apologies. We've actually written to the fulfillment company to ask them to make provisions for us and let them know it's not really acceptable. So, we're doing everything we can. These types of things do happen from time to time, but this really caught us on the back foot. And so with this in mind, we want to make sure we can do everything we can to accelerate that. I can certainly guarantee you. Finally, in Asia, they're actually already packing the pledges. And what happens is they inject the pledges into a workflow. This means that the pledges will go into regional fulfillment, and the insertion happens on the June the 30th. And so that's when they'll be shipped over to the regional centres, and then the last stage will happen to you from your regional areas. Now, this process can take between 2 to 6 weeks, we've been advised, but 6 weeks seems a little bit kind of generous in terms of an estimate there. We remain focused on that, and we'll actually review to see how we're progressing as well. So that's everything we have in terms of the Kickstarter updates. Now, there was a few print issues which I need to address as well. As we look at the cards and people opening packs, we've noticed a few things. The first off was the foil version of the Immortal Throne. The problem with that is that the text box was a Pendulum of Peril, I think it was. Now, the reason that this type of thing happens is that when we print the cards, it's actually a long elapsed time between when we print the first cards and the last cards. We actually printed the promo cards first of all. and the cards are printed the back first, and then they flipped over and printed the front. Then we move on to some of the other cards as well. What happened is that quite late stage, we were keen to make some changes, probably inadvisably, actually, doing that. We were kind of focused on perfection, and I think we kind of had reached that point. Whenever we introduce small updates into the workflow, it causes problems. Now, to help us address this, what we've done is we've got full workflow all the way from the card text to design to layout to print proofing to print as well. So in future, we hope to avoid a lot of that. But basically, it was us fiddling at the last minute that caused those issues. Other cards which have unfortunately been impacted were the Occult Ritual, which is from the Pledge Pack. That's the Frank Rosetta art. I believe it says there rather than here, or the other way around. I don't know the details, but there is a typographical error. We will be issuing an errata, so everyone is aware of that as we move into product in hand for everybody for Alpha. I think there was an artist misattribution on the Moon Clan Werewolf. And with the precons, there was Spear of Destiny and Shifting Sands, which had an issue where instead of having the alpha symbol, it had the copyright symbol. Not to be confused with sample cards, which have the copyright symbol as well. So apologies for that. Erica, the team, it's quite disappointing when we miss things like that, but we're taking it in hand and to ensure that we don't have these issues moving forward. Okay, next up, GenCon. So GenCon runs from the 3rd to the 6th of August, and there'll be 3 of us from Eric's Curiosa. This year, we don't have a stand. However, we will be actually showcasing the game and having multiple different events. There's a Learn to Play as well as a booster draft, and then we have our showcase event, which is a competitive constructed event. All the events are sold out, unfortunately. They're sold out pretty quickly, which normally happens at GenCon. However, if you're there, please come and visit us. We'd love to say hello. If we can get time, we'll have games. I'm sure we can accommodate you as well. So don't feel that you can't come and see us. Like I said, we will be in attendance. And we'll be meeting with some of the partners and some of the content creators, which you may have seen as well. So please pop up and see us. Finally, prize support. Now, we've got some bad news here. And it's very, very upsetting, actually. Whenever we move items between different areas, such as things like booster boxes, test prints, etc., we ship them between New Zealand and other territories. And what happened is that we got ahead of the curve a little bit on the painting, which is Crown of the Victor. And that was sent to North America from New Zealand. The problem is that it fell off tracking. And subsequently, we've been advised that that painting has now been lost by the Postal Service. Again, we're very angry, but there's very little we can do. Typically, what happens is that packages may have become damaged in transit, and then they're put to one side and even discarded. Even though it was insured, there's nothing we can do to recover the piece. So it's very disappointing. We're looking for alternate price support for GenCon, and Eric's actually searching through some of the paintings that he has to make sure that it's certainly worthwhile for our participants. So upsetting, especially when we see art missing, destroyed, or lost. However, if anybody ever finds this, please let us know. We'd be absolutely delighted to work with you to secure it. We have no idea how we can achieve that right now, given the information we've had from the Postal Service. So very disappointing, very sad day for us. But we will make sure that GenCon continues, and there will be adequate and impressive price support as well. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, moving on. The beta edition. So with beta, we were very keen to basically work with a lot of people very early on to give them what they needed, which was access to the beta product. The issue is that we moved too quickly. We didn't have the Kickstarter Alpha in hand with our backers, which has to be our imperative, the thing that we always would do first. So what's happened is that we've kind of soft launched the beta with certain distributors, and so some distributors does have product available, but that's not really going to help us or help our fans with visibility and people new to the game, because there'll be some confusion. So what we're going to do is we're going to have what we call a hard launch of our pre-order on the 10th of July. This is when we announce all of our distribution partners. We stand up our retailer portal, basically allows retailers to see the product, to register their store, and to click through to product from each of their distributors to ask for allocation. Within that page as well, we would also have details on our store kit. and our buy a box promo as well. So the store kit will be for sort of non-light competitive play with a number of different items. We're not going to share that today. And also we're going to announce a buy a box promo, which basically means that if you purchase a box of beta through a retailer, you will actually gain access to the card. And so that is something we can share today. Now, we wanted to do something which would coincide with the launch date. And as we look at the estimates that we have for how we can get beta to stores, we were aware that, first of all, some of our estimates weren't very strong. And secondly, there's a COVID wave in China, and we don't really know what the impact's going to be. So we've elected to move the release date back into October. And so we will actually be having a worldwide release of Sorcery Contested Realm Beta Edition on Friday, October the 6th. And as you can see here, this is our Headless Horned promo card from Frank Rosetta. Now, one thing to point out about Frank Rosetta is that when we licensed the art, it was for the Alpha edition of Sorcery. We were not able to secure it for multiple different releases. And so when we move into beta, we have alternate art versions of the previous Frank Rosetta cards. So this is an opportunity to get a final piece of Frank Rosetta art as a buy a box promo with beta. We love this particular card, very thematic as we move into October. So we'll hope that you will enjoy it too. Wonderful. So finally, I want to touch on our Innkeepers. Innkeepers have been our supporters pretty much from day one with Kickstarter. The Kickstarter pledge level was Innkeepers for our retail backers, for brick and mortar stores. Now, what we did is, first of all, we've prioritized the Kickstarter fulfillment for all of our Innkeepers. So in each region, we've asked that the Innkeepers be fulfilled first. So you should receive your product maybe just a few days ahead of everybody else. Typically, fulfillment windows are quite short, so it should get to you pretty quickly, but we're not going to delay anybody else's. We actually have guaranteed allocation for Innkeepers, and we're working with our distribution partners to secure that. Closer to the time, what will happen is we'll send an email out to each of our Innkeepers asking for their preferred distributor. If it's on the list, we'll make a accommodation for you in terms of guaranteed allocation, and then you work directly with them to secure product. Guaranteed allocation is not something we can offer to all stores, given the nature of sort of printing and the limits that we have there. In addition to that, Innkeepers will acquire double the number of store kits. So a store kit will be based on the number of booster boxes that you buy for most stores, but Innkeepers would actually have the availability of double those. To thank them for being our earlier supporters and hopefully getting as many people to the store as possible. Again, the store kits is something we'll be announcing on July 10th. The pre-order window for beta is kind of a bit of elastic, but we're thinking it's going to be around the 10th of July through to the 10th of August, just after GenCon, but we might have to move it quite short because, frankly, we may sell out at allocation. We're not sure what's going to happen. Finally, if you're not an Innkeeper today, you can become an Innkeeper in the future. We want to add more Innkeepers. As stores register within our portal, we're going to showcase those. We would love to interview your store to understand more about how your players are playing Sorcery and learn a little bit more about the history of your store as well. So in the coming weeks and months, we'll actually go ahead and reach out to folks and hopefully showcase those on the Sorcery website. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. Again, apologies for it just being me. Eric's feeling a little bit under the weather, but we aim to sort of produce more videos moving forward. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to put them in the comments. You can contact us via Kickstarter or even join our Discord, where basically people ask questions all day long and share not just their thoughts on the game, but our Canadian backers are already sharing some of their cards as well. It's our commitment to you to do all we can to get you your product as soon as possible. And it has been very challenging. There's a lot of games lined up post-COVID and for many other reasons as well with different distribution partners. So we're trying to forge forward as best possible. So apologies for the delays. It's getting close now. And as soon as we get your product, it will certainly make us happy. So thanks for your time today. And we'll hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.